So we're going to go ahead and get started today. Today's webinar subject is collaboration, decentralization, and data security. So why BPro is the go-to solution for Minnesota State University Mankato. For the guest panel, I'm your host, Samantha Hoffman. I'm the social media specialist at B. And we're going to go ahead real fast, everybody, if you want to just say a little bit about yourself.
I can start. Hi, everyone. I'm Kyle Snee. I am a CRM administrator here at Minnesota State University Mankato. I've been in this role since 2003. We started using B approximately 2 years ago, and just manages some of our communication CRM operations.
Hi, everybody. My name is Nicole Faust. I work in residential life here on campus, and I use BPro in my work daily, and you'll hear about that here soon. My role is I'm the assistant director for planning, marketing, and administration for our department.
And I'm Lexi Potter. I do communications for our IT Solutions division here at Minnesota State Mankato, and I lead our email creation for our IT and our esports email campaigns using BPro as our main design tool. And then I also manage a small team of students who really help me to write and create that content as well.
So just some background on Minnesota State Mankato sent to me by Nicole. So it's located in Mankato, Minnesota, which is about 85 miles southwest of the Twin Cities. So that's Minneapolis, St. Paul, Minnesota, for everybody not necessarily familiar with the state. It's a mid-sized public institution. They have more than 1,400 students across 130 undergraduate programs and 80 graduate programs. And then there are 26 campus users of BPro across 20 some different departments. So what we're going to cover today is the initial adoption phase. What challenges did Minnesota State University Mankato face that led to them looking into alternatives, deciding on BPro, and really using that as their tool? Then growth. How did BPro flex to fit Mankato's expanding and evolving needs? What does BPro look like in practice for Mankato? And then we're going to do a live Q&A as well. So, Kyle, since you were the first adapter of BPro, can you start by telling us how you found BPro and why you were initially looking for this sort of tool?
Yeah, so this started approximately 2 years ago. We are a very decentralized university in terms of marketing and communications. Have a lot of tools that are being used to communicate with students, and that was the case, like I said, about 2 years ago. However, a couple of the tools that we were using started to pose some security concerns from our IT department in terms of some of the data that was being stored in them. So we were being asked to kind of look at what other tools might be out there that, where we didn't have to store contact data in that tool. And that kind of what prompted us down this path. And so we started looking around. We needed a tool, like I said, that was great with design, easy, flexible, but yet powerful. And again, we just needed it for the design piece. We weren't going to be sending out anything out through the tool. That's what we were going to use our CRM for. We also had to have it play well with our CRM, which was kind of a difficult task because our CRM at the time, we'd been using it since 2004, but the tool had changed. The company that had bought it in 2011, they used it for more on the case management piece. There was a marketing email communications platform in there. They left the lights on, but they stopped developing it. So we could keep using it, but it was pretty antiquated in terms of functionality. So for myself and my colleague, we could only use it more on the code side, and it didn't play well with a lot of HTML content that would bring in from other tools. And when we found B, we started playing around with B, and we said, "Oh my gosh, our tool actually likes B." And we really had to do nothing to massage the code. Even though we were only looking at the code when we brought it into the CRM, we could start using it. And so that was a big game changer for us, because we were only planning on using B for a few departments at that time that were using, again, some of these other tools for design. And so we started kind of coming up with a process, to be honest, on the fly. Sent out the information to the departments that were using it and got them into the tool. Again, we found that it was very easy to onboard users. It's literally drag and drop, no code. And so it was hitting a lot of targets for us. And then we could realize once we got those departments on board and using it through word of mouth a lot, other departments started finding out about it. So we didn't plan on where we're at 2 years later. Like I said, I just did a count where I have 26 users across 40 workspaces. So in B, almost like 40 departments, programs, business units are involved. The reason why we don't have a user for every department is because some of the departments are just using we're using B to design the content, but they don't have a dedicated user because they're just getting into it. So it's not unusual for us to get a user where they send us the content, myself and my colleague as the admin, and we design and do the layout in B, and then we actually send it through the CRM. But once they start sending out more and more communications, we say, okay, now it's time for you to get your feet wet in B, and then we train them how to do it. And so it's great also for departments that use student workers. A lot of our departments do to create content, and those students graduate. So having a tool there, you can easily onboard a new user. And to be honest, we train our users just by showing them how to design what they want to design their very first time through. Might be a newsletter, for example. They bring the content, we get them into a session, record it, and by the end of the session, they have already got their first email ready to go out. But folks like Nicole and Lexi who are on this webinar today, they're some of our power users in terms of they're just doing it all themselves. So we just give them the reins and they work their magic. And then when they're done, what we do is what I do. Is just go in and export that HTML. So that's key for us, being able to export the HTML, import it into our CRM, and use the CRM to send it. But what's also nice that we didn't even realize, to be honest, until we got into B, is that B hosts the images and the files, because that was a real pain point for us before that of where we're going to host these images, these resources. Having that capability in B was a game changer for us too. So like I said, it's still continuing to grow. We just added another department program last week, and it's usually, like I said, through word of mouth. But that's kind of my spiel of how we got this going. So
yeah, so before we kind of jump into the expansion, there's a couple things I did want to touch base with you there. So very first, you mentioned that this all kind of started because there was this flag raised by your IT team about data security. And what is it about B Pro that really fits and aligns with your data security needs?
because with B, we're not storing any student data in this tool. That's what our CRM is for. But some of the other tools we were using prior to this it was a tool to design the content and also send the communications as well. And that's when these departments and users were bringing in data. And that's where when we had to go renew the agreements, there were some issues that we had and concerns, and the vendors weren't really kind of up to agreeing to what we thought was necessary. So that kind of was the catalyst for saying, hey, we need to get off of these tools, but we need a solution for these folks as well. We just can't leave them high and dry. So yeah, having the fact that there is no data in there for us, and it's just a great flexible design tool, it hit all the targets, to be honest, and it kind of exceeded what we were looking for.
Yeah, and for anybody here who is concerned just about the overall security of the tool, we are ISO 27001 certified. You can also set two-factor authentication at the user level, so that way, like Kyle, Nicole, Lexi, they don't have to worry about somebody going into their BPro account and changing things or potentially messing things up. So our team is always listening, developing feedback when it comes to safety and security first and foremost, understanding that that is so important. And then, so working with those multiple programs initially, what kind of problems did you see working across departments as they were continuing to onboard the tool? I know you mentioned that it was using your CRM first that really prompted this adaptation. And Lexi and Nicole, if you guys have any great input as well, that would be fantastic.
Well, I know, Nicole, you can chime in because you were using our CRM prior to B, but it was a little more limited at that time.
Right. I think one of the issues I ran into with the old one that we were using is the hosting images. So that was kind of a pain for us prior to this. We'd have to, host it online and then kind of copy the link and try to make it work so that the design would look nice and how it was intended. And so that was a big game changer for us. It's very easy to upload images that we design through Canva or other tools and bring them in. And so that was one of the things that was really helpful.
Yeah, Lexi, when you bring on students to help you design things, what does that workflow look like? How do you collaborate just on your projects?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when I bring on students, I usually do a little bit of training with them. Like I'll sit down in maybe 30 seconds and they're already able to utilize the B platform because it is so simple. And it's very similar to other platforms that they may have used in the past too. And so we'll do that. And then once they get in there, we've kind of got a task manager that we use separate from BPro, of course. And so I'll kind of just assign them a mailing and say, here's the mailing. I might put ideas of content that I want in there, and then I'll let them really run with the writing and graphic design. We do utilize graphic design tools outside of BPro like Canva, Photoshop, Adobe. And so they'll do all that, pull it in, and then they'll just message me on our Teams platform, so Microsoft Teams, and we'll chat back and forth. They'll say, hey, I've got this draft. I'll kind of look in there and review it from an admin standpoint and make changes. Sometimes I'll comment within B. There is an option to make comments, which is really nice. And there are different workflow options to like select approve or not approve. We don't use those too much because, like I said, we'll do a lot of our work in Teams and chatting, or I'll just walk over to our studio and just talk with them and kind of go one-on-one. And so then once we've got it to the way that we want it, I'll go through and do a final check, and then we send it off to Kyle's team and they get that all sent out for us. So that's kind of a peek into how our workflow goes for us.
Yeah, Lexi, are you able to share what task manager your team uses by any chance?
We use Asana or Microsoft Planner, which is within the Office 365 suite. So we kind of go back and forth between both.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. And then, so Lexi, Nicole, Kyle, we talk about how BPro is supposed to be this intuitive no-code design tool. Nicole, you touched upon, using Canva. Lexi, you talked about people having design experience, but for people that that use BPro that don't have design experience, what is their first instinct? Like, how does it ladder up with Canva with them? And I know, Nicole, I think you mentioned potentially showing how Canva is used in conjunction later. But can you just talk about a little more what it's like coming in from the outside?
So when Kyle and Mike brought BPro to us, I was like one of the first users of it. And one of the things I really liked was the drag and drop features of it. And so it's very easy to kind of put items where you want them to be, and how when it's sent out to students, it looks the way it's intended. And so that's one of the things I really liked. It was very easy to use. I'm not one who's come from the coding side, so I don't have that skill, but not having that was not a problem with this tool. Like, we could make it however we wanted. One of the things I really like about B also is the templates that are provided within the tool itself. So a lot of times I'm looking for a certain look or a certain utility for the mailing that I'm sending out. And so there are a lot of examples within there that I can kind of choose from and see what's going to fit my project. Or if I just want to design it from a blank canvas, I could do that as well. One of the things I think Kyle's done as well is we have some branded usage templates that we could use as well. So if you don't want to put as much time into it, or you just want to send something out quickly, that's very easy to do. So I definitely upload a lot of images, like I said, from Canva. I like that you can move the blocks around very easily to get the look that you're going for. So
that was another aha moment for us as well, because again, some of our users are not in, they're not in design or email design. There could be a student worker who's tasked for designing an email, and we can kind of guide them through like, hey, here's some examples of other newsletters other departments have used. And I can put a folder of those samples in their workspace so they can kind of see, oh, this layout looks pretty good. Let's go with this. And then we can copy that. But what's also nice is that like our university has, like most schools have branding standards that comes down from university marketing. So we have official colors, 2 primary, and I think there's 12 secondary colors. But what's cool is if we bring on a department, right, or a college, I create the workspace, or my colleague Mike, one of us will set up that workspace, but you can go into the settings and you can put in that palette of university colors by the hex desk codes, and say, hey, that way when a user, like a student or anyone, goes to choose a color to select something, they see all of the university approved colors, and that's what they see to start with. So they don't have to go looking for those or, copy hex desk codes into their design. They're just right there. So it's super convenient, and it helps ease the learning curve. And it's just, like I said, that learning curve, you can do very basic stuff to create a pretty cool looking, email, and not put a whole lot of flash into it. Or you can really do like our power users like Lexi and Nicole, they go, they do a lot with their emails, but it kind of caters to a wide variety of, I guess, skill areas, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, and touching upon the workspaces, there's also the file manager within the workspaces. So I know like on our team, it's great because if we're looking for a logo, like a branded logo, it's already been uploaded. You don't have to worry about, oh gosh, is this the one with the transparent background? Is it the correct size? Is it the exact branded color or something somebody came up with in Photoshop that visually looks close enough but isn't? So really having those built-in tools we see on our end, I know for sure, it really cuts our email and landing page production time and helps us stay on brand. And I'm happy to hear that you guys utilize it the same way.
Another thing we did have to worry about that was a pain for us before this is that responsive design. It automatically will so much of our emails now go to students, of course, right? Well, they're not really consuming those emails on a desktop. They're doing it on their phone. But to be able to see and be what this looks like, on a desktop browser versus, their phone and so forth is also key. And there's no code to massage. It just automatically happens, when you can see it in B and then send it out. It's just, again, these are just features that are just very useful to have.
Yeah, Kyle, are you guys an Outlook school by any chance?
Yeah, we're Microsoft. Yes.
Yes. So I went to a university that was also Microsoft, and Outlook is one of the most challenging email. Yes, you understand. So the great thing is like our team, they're always testing using like Litmus, a bunch of other tools to make sure that emails that people are sending are received correctly from Outlook, from Gmail, that everything looks the way it's intended to. And as soon as an issue is flagged either by our team or by somebody like Kyle or Lexi or Nicole, we are doing whatever it takes to get a fix in as soon as possible, because those render issues are obviously so important for our power users and just anybody who uses the tool. So Lexi, would you mind jumping into sharing your screen and putting together the would you like to show a little bit of your demo?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And you guys have already talked about a lot of the tools that I wanted to touch on too, which is great. So like I said, I work for our IT solutions division here at Minnesota State Mankato. And so I really do a lot of mailings for our IT department as well as our esports department. So 2 very different brands, but B makes it really easy to manage those brands and keep consistent. So I just wanted to share a few of my favorite tools for not only easier workflow, but also for brand consistency. And these are especially helpful, like we said, when we're working on a team. Sometimes we've got students on a team as well too, and we all just need to be on the same page using the same assets across our campaigns. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And bear with me because I don't often use this streaming platform. So people stop me if my screen looks weird or whatever, but hopefully everybody can see what I've got going on here. Okay, so What I first want to touch on is, and Kyle kind of touched on this too, is the global styles underneath settings. If you go to your styles tab, this is what Kyle was talking about with setting your colors. This is a really great starting point just to get that brand consistency down right away. Great kickoff point to just load in all your stuff in here right away. And this sets it across all your mailings. So you can see that you have options to choose your colors, and you can come in here and change these or add them anytime. You can set your typography, so your fonts. You can get really particular in your design too, like even the width for your email designs, if you want to set that globally, your buttons, your default buttons and your colors, your social media links. You can add custom fonts. So this is where I would recommend starting, is just making sure that you're in here and setting these. And this just narrows down those choices for your designers and really takes a lot of that pressure off. So you're not constantly going to dig out the right color or the right font, and helps with that consistency. So I also want to show one of our most recent email mailings. And this is actually a newsletter that we send out from our IT department at the start of and end of every semester to students. And this is kind of like a newsletter format. So really what we do here is we like to highlight new tools or important tech information that we think students will find useful when they start and end each of their semesters. So for us, this is a recurring mailing. We've got a lot of fun stuff in here. You can see a lot of these graphics are created in Canva and pulled over, like Nicole was talking about. And all of these look the same. So it's consistent every start and end of the semester. Students know they get this mailing and it always looks the same, so they know what to expect. And so this is also a great segue into the next tool that I want to talk about, which is templates. So if you are someone who is doing a campaign that you need to make sure all the mailings look the same, or you've got a recurring newsletter that you want to make sure the design stays the same, you can utilize the templates feature. So if you go to your library at the top here, and then it's going to take you to My Templates. And then you can see we've got a lot of different ones that are pre-made here for our university. But if you click Create a New Template here, what you can do is you can create a template from the pre-made ones, the library that B offers, which is really, really great if you don't know where to start or you need some design inspiration, or you can create from scratch. So you can see here I've got this ITS semester email template that I already set up. So if we go into that, you can see I've already created this template here. And so I actually created this one from scratch and just put all my settings in. I put in our logo, placeholders for images that I even just popped in the image size as well too. So that when we get in here and we're, hopping over to our Canva or our Photoshop and we're creating that graphic content, we automatically know what size we need to refer back to so that we can just drag and drop right in here. I've got placeholders for like your title, intro copy, and placeholders for our little story blurbs, featured stories, and then button placeholders and image placeholders as well in here. So this is super great. It cuts down the time on creating our mailings by so much because you don't have to worry about remembering what did the last email look like or recreating a new design. You just have this template set for you and you hop right in there and design. And it really helps keep our student workers in check too, so that we're not, creating all tons of different designs for different emails. It's all the same, takes the pressure off them, and they can really just focus on creating quality content, quality copy and images, and then we're good to go. So easy peasy, you could just drag and drop and build your template. And then once you're done, you can hit your little save button and exit out, go back to your projects. And then when you're ready to use that template, you just click create new email, and then go to your templates tab and you can see it's right there for you. So you can choose whichever template you want. So if I go back into the one that I just made, it's going to load it up and it'll actually create a copy of that template for me, and I'm ready to go right away. I can rename it whatever I want, and I can hop in here and just start designing, which is really nice. So then another tool that I really like in addition to templates is the ability to save individual rows. So although I have this whole template saved, It's also nice if I want to save these little chunks individually and utilize them in other mailings. So you can just click on any row and click the little save button right here. And what that'll do is it'll save it in your rows. So if you go to rows and then my saved rows, you can see that I already have a bunch of saved content in here. I pre-saved each of those rows in my template into this section as well. So when I'm in there designing, let's say I accidentally deleted something or something's not looking right, I can easily just go back to my rows, find the chunk and drag and drop. And then I don't have to go start all over, remake from a new template or anything. I can just drag and drop. Or if I need, more story blurbs, I can drag and drop those in really easily. So it just makes it so much more efficient to build out that content without having to remake things. So love the saved rows feature. And the last feature that I wanted to talk about that we kind of touched on a little bit is the file manager, which is really nice. So you can create folders and upload all your graphic assets. So if there's recurring photos or logos that you need to reuse in all your campaigns, you can easily upload them and organize them. So you're not going and digging in your desktop files or your shared files to try and find the right logo. It's just right there. So for example, if I want to click in here and change this logo at the top, I could just go to change image. And you can see I've already set up several folders with different logos in here. So let's say I just want to change it to our university logo. I've already pre-uploaded all of our official logos in a bunch of different colorways, and I can just add those. Or if for some reason I'm not finding the folder that I want, you can also search, which is really nice. And there it is right there. I could choose a different color, pop it in there, and then really easily I have changed my logo in just a few seconds. So I find that those are pretty much my top tools in Beefree, and they really help to make my life and my team's life easier, save time, and just make sure that everything stays consistent, on brand across all of our mailings. So that is kind of my go-to for tools.
Hey, Lexi, would you mind resharing your screen and just showing what the mobile design looks like as well, the differences?
Yeah, sure. Let me grab that again. So yeah, I really love that tool as well too, because you can easily just pop in there and see what is this going to look like on a mobile device. So if you are in here, you can click your preview button. And this shows you, okay, here we're in desktop version, but if you go up to this little slider, you can click on mobile, and it's going to show you how it's going to squeeze in those images and that text and how that's going to look on a mobile device. And so if you're not happy with how this looks, you can easily just go back into your design, play around with it, maybe squeeze in or add some padding here and there, whatever you need, go back to your preview, and then you can automatically, it will update and show you what that'll look like in mobile. So I find that super useful as well.
So somebody in the audience is wondering, do you also use mobile design view by any chance? So in like the upper left corner of your design panel, there's like a desktop and a cell phone icon. So you can actually toggle independently between the desktop and the mobile. And then on mobile design mode, you have the ability to oh, Nicole's nodding her head. She definitely uses it in Kyle. You have the ability to decide whether columns aren't being stacked. Potentially, you can adjust the padding only on mobile design mode.
Yeah, I've used that. So my colleague Mike and myself, we will actually design some emails for departments, like I said, who don't have a dedicated resource or they're just getting into B and so forth. And I've used that before as well. Like I said, it's a great feature. And also, with Lexi and Nicole being power users and showing the templates, we've also, what's kind of cool is it caters to your comfort zone or your skill area. So when we have users who, they're not using templates per se, and we had our university marketing design a whole host of templates. And I put them in all the workspaces, and they never really got used because one, B has hundreds of templates that you can just go and look at and say, oh, this is a cool layout. I'll just grab this and start here and change colors and drop stuff in. Or what I do if it's working with a student worker, I'll create their first, I don't know, workspace in terms of document is I'll preset the, how wide it's going to be. Like that sweet spot is typically 600, 650 pixels, which is kind of going to, play well with both types of, a mobile versus a desktop. But what we have a lot of our users do is they won't even do a template per se, but they know they're doing a newsletter every week, right? And the layout is going to be the same. The format is going to be the same. They just have to replace the content that goes in between the, the top and the bottom images and so forth. So they'll just take, the email they created last week and just copy it and give it a new name. And, now it's ready for this week. And they just go in and change what's in there, that needs to be changed. So that's another way you can do it as well. It's just, like I said, there's a lot of options that you just kind of stumble across, and people kind of pick what works for them.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and Nicole, you had mentioned that you're the only user on your team, but obviously there's many other people in your department. How do you share things with them, get their feedback? What's your workflow look like?
Right. So a lot of times, I'm sure you guys can relate, you're asked to write something or send a message out. And so you need to share a preview of that with other people within your department who might not be users of Beefree. So one of the features I really like about it is that you can open it in another window and it'll create a link. And then you can share that link with others to allow them to preview the design. That way you can get input from them on what needs to be changed, if anything, or if it's good to go. So that is one of the features I really like too. So I know a lot of us are sharing content with a lot of other people who are requesting our help. So
yeah, if you're going to start bringing on multiple departments, like I said, I keep a folder of like, oh, here's a cool, email that Lexi designed, and here's something that Nicole sent. And so I'll actually grab a copy of that, put it in my own personal workspace folder. So then when I onboard new users, I can show them a collection of what other departments do. And I'm not saying we're stealing what they've done. We kind of share, but it's a starting point. Say, oh, I like this layout, versus always having to start from scratch. So.
Yeah, no, thank you, everybody. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of hop into our Q&A to begin with. Before we really get into things, there are a couple of things that I've just wanted to touch upon. I know we have a couple questions. So one from Kathy. I'm also going to go ahead and, oh, okay, I can't answer it live. But so there's a question from Kathy that says, does Bee manage the email templates and images? But can it also send mass emails? So Bee isn't an email sending provider or a marketing automation platform, but we do have connectors directly to Salesforce. We have direct connectors to Outlook Web, actually was just released, Contact Lab, MailChimp, HubSpot, a lot of these common ESPs or marketing automation platforms where all you do is one click and export, and it'll directly send what you need to do. Or you can do like Kyle does, where he just downloads the HTML and plugs and plays pretty easily from there. So Kyle, how do you convert the template to a project? Is there a difference? So,
You mean, is that in our CRM, or are you talking about how do we get it from Bee into our CRM?
How do you convert the template to a project? So it's actually pretty intuitive. Like Lexi was showing, you just essentially hit start new, and you have the opportunity to use those templates that you've pre-built in the template section, or you can use some of the ones that are pre-uploaded and designed by one of our talented designers from our design community, and you'll start directly building within that project.
Yeah, and it depends on your institution's marketing, policies or philosophy, structure, and so forth. If they prefer to, provide users, here's the templates you should start off with. Ours did it just as to be helpful and so forth. But like I said, there's so many ways to create a template, and a lot of our departments, they're using an existing mailing that they already sent out as a template, even though it's not officially a template in Bee's perspective, but they just copy it and then give it a new name, and then, because that to them is what a template is, because they're just reusing a lot of the content they don't have to build in. And like Lexi showed, being able to save like rows and so forth, even when we're designing an email, when we go through training, we show them how easy it is just to copy a row, not even save it, but say, okay, you just had this row up here that had, an image on the left and some text on the right and 2 columns and so forth, and you want to use that again. Just here's how you copy it, and then drag it down to that area that you need it, right? And then you just swap out the content, and then that's what they do. So then they don't even need to use a saved row. Versus some of them will use a lot of saved rows. It's like I said, it just caters to a lot of preferences of how you want to use the tool.
Yeah. So our CEO wants to know, are you guys collaborating? Does this look okay? Are you using it in Teams? Do you have an approval flow in Asana? How do you guys kind of collaborate differently within your departments?
Yeah, that's a good question. I can touch on that. So we mostly either talk face to face with my students. Like sometimes I will even print out the email and like write my feedback on there, kind of like a professor giving feedback on homework. So that's how I kind of work with my students, just so that they learn. But then we also do a lot of our messaging in our Microsoft Teams, which is our chat platform that we use. So I don't do a lot of feedback within the B environment, just because we're constantly always chatting in Teams, and we kind of like to keep one place to keep all our stuff. So, and then we do have an approval workflow in Asana where I will assign the task. We'll assign like draft 1, draft 2 on different dates, final draft, and then we'll go through and check those off and kind of work together. So that's how my workflow works with me and my team.
What
And
about you,
then,
Nicole?
yeah, and I was also going to touch on for Nicole too. She mentioned you can share the link to the mailing. So I do that a lot. Like I've got people above me, right? So I can approve my students' work, but I also need to get that approved by my boss and her boss. And so, right. So we need to have that link to be able to have people go and look at it and say, yep, this looks good, or here's my changes. And then we go from there. So that's another great feature that Nicole touched on that I like too. Sorry, but Nicole, go ahead. Anything?
You're good. Since I'm the only person in my department that kind of runs this, so I don't have a team that I necessarily collaborate with or check with. But yeah, I have a lot of people within our department who are sharing requests, that we're putting certain information in our newsletters, or we're sending out an emergency notice about an elevator being down or something along those lines. So I don't necessarily have a team for that, but I certainly take those requests.
And and within B, you can actually send proofs, to yourself or to anyone else. What we do, because we send the actual mailing through our CRM, our process might be a little bit different, is that, for the department, our users we're kind of lean and mean, like most, higher ed institutions are. It could be one person in a department that's doing everything, like Nicole. And so what we have is, once Nicole is done with her mailing and she sees how it looks in B, she lets us know, myself and Mike, and then we go in, we just, export, import the HTML into our CRM, and then we'll use the CRM to create the real proof of how it's going to actually look, to make sure there's no issues how it translated that CRM, and it doesn't. But and then we will send Nicole the proof as it looks in the CRM, coming from the CRM. And then once she signs off, I say, yep, looks great. And then we send it out. So that's pretty common for us. But B is very robust in that whole workflow approval process, just natively within the tool, if you want to be able to leverage that.
Yeah, I just wanted to show what that native approval flow looks like real fast. So, oh gosh, if you look at the page review tab, so this is in our B Pro enterprise level account. So you just literally go to page review for approval. It's actually really easy and intuitive. So you can add a title, you can add that meta description, and then it generates all these generic things. Let's say I wanted to ask my coworker Alec to look at this. I just click on his name, click add, and it's really easy. So now you can see it says awaiting review, and there is a new status tab. So then what Alec can do is he can go in and update this tab to approved. He can give feedback, deliver comments, that sort of thing. Another thing that we've also seen people use for approval is they will just download a PDF and they'll just email that off, give people the ability to mark comments, do that sort of thing. Nice and pretty easy and intuitive. And then, so we do have a question from Carla who wants to know how you create a folder and then upload the assets and pictures directly into the folder. So yes, you do have to be working in a new project, whether that is an email or a landing page, in order to upload those assets. But once you're in the file manager, you can create those folders and upload directly in there and organize at any point. And then once the assets are in that file manager and uploaded and saved, they can be accessed by anybody within that workspace, no matter what they're creating.
Yeah, for our departments, like I said, we have 40 workspaces, and each one is a department or a business unit or something like that. They're a little bit different, but the commonalities, they'll have a project folder, typically by mailings, like the type of mailings. This is a folder for our newsletter. This is a folder for our emails. We send out emails to students, not like a newsletter, but hey, something about their preparation for graduation, just to let them know there's the possible issue, you need to go and do this, right? Because we can send it out, and it's a university email, but it's all just designed in B. And we use the CRM to put in, like, the name and so forth. We create placeholders in B, say, hey, this is where the first name field is going to go. And then we use the CRM to dynamically insert that field data and so forth. So you can do a lot more with just this isn't just a tool for us to use newsletters. We send out all kinds of types of emails through this.
Since you guys are such power users, would you mind sharing some of your favorite tips and tricks, just as you guys, and like how you share that information with each other?
One thing that I did this past, not too long ago, is because we got getting to be so big, is I created a Microsoft Teams team for our users, because that's one thing we need is another team, but this one actually gets used because what B is really good at is providing information about best practices on design, feature updates, even things like I just learned, you guys had an email that went out maybe about a month ago that talked about using emojis in your emails, right? And you link to a site where you can grab all these emojis. And I said, I didn't even know that existed. So, I'll take everything that you guys send me and I'll put that into our team site to let our users know, hey, here's what's available, or here's the best practice. It's like I find myself starting to, I now know what a CTA is, and it's like I'm designing emails, and I said, well, I wonder if this is a good use of a best practice. You know what I mean? And so we found having that team site is kind of popular, because if a new student comes on board and they're going to be the one designing an email or a newsletter for the department and they're brand new, put them into the team site and they can see what's going on there, and ask questions to other users as well. So that helps.
Yeah, I would say probably my number one tip for new users, if you're getting in there and feeling really overwhelmed, especially with the design piece of it, is to really utilize those templates that B Pro has. There's templates for whole emails, or there is like templated rows for sections. So like, let's say you have your design in mind, but then you get stuck and you need to know, how do I put this content in here? If I want, pictures side by side, or a text and a picture side by side, how do I do that? There's pre-made templates for that too. So really rely and lean on that. And then just swap in your brand colors and imagery, and it makes it really easy.
You don't even have to. There's templates for education, right? But there's other industries and verticals out there too. You can just go into those B templates and say, yeah, looks pretty cool to start with as well. So Nicole, was there something you want to say?
I was just going to add something like a tip as well. I would say don't be afraid to kind of play around with it. I think a lot of it, the things that I've learned, and I haven't learned all of it yet, but it's just learn by trial and error, clicking a button here, seeing what this will do, how it impacts the look of the mailing. So don't be overwhelmed by it. Like Lexi said, it can be as simple as you want it to be. If you want to do something a little bit more complex, it does allow for that as well. But don't be afraid to mess around and really try it out.
And I did drop this in the chat as well, but just a shameless plug. You can find our email design blog, which has all those helpful tips and tricks, real life examples, whether they're higher education, examples of retail, that sort of thing. So that's emaildesign.beefree.io. That's our email design blog. And we also send out helpful emails. We regularly update our template catalog. So we send a roundup of those once they're made. And all these tips and tricks and product updates and everything are also on our social media.
Oh, and your user community too, which is great. So I love going in the community. People post questions about, hey, I've got a question about how to do this. Has anyone else tried this? Or feature updates are there, or that's a great place to get help as well, is that community.
Yes, absolutely. Does anybody have any other questions before we wrap things up? Okay, we have a couple people typing. I just want to make sure we don't miss anything before we exit. But Lexi, Nicole, Kyle, thank you guys so much for joining us and helping with this demonstration, really passing on all these lessons and showing how such a large university really can utilize a tool to help give you guys time back and make things easier, because that's our goal, is to make your life easier. So thank you guys so much. And I hope everybody has a great weekend.
Yeah, if there's anyone on the call that's looking at B, feel free to get a hold of us to help. Happy to walk you through what we do. So
Yeah, thank you all. Thanks for having us.
yeah, thank you, B. This has been great.